Hello and welcome to Tantrum House Studio 3. I'm Will Meadows.
And I'm Sara Meadows, and today we're doing our top 10 Kickstarters of 2020.
Approach the end of 2020, Sarah and I thought it might be cool to sit down and rank some of our favorite Kickstarter campaigns from the year. These are all games that we previewed here at Tantrum House Studio 3. If you're interested, Kevin and Melissa have a whole different video of games that they previewed this year, so you can check out the Studio D Top 10 Kickstarter list.
And there's 20 games on that video.
They have trouble putting theirs in order. We worked together, we put together our list, and I think we're ready to jump in and share some of our favorite games from the past year.
Yeah, so there are some rules about what it made in this video. It had to be a campaign from 2020. Okay. It had to be one that Will or I created content for. So there's a lot of games we got to play the prototypes, but we may not have been involved in creating content for it. So some of these we did a playthrough, some of them a preview or overview type video. We do have a couple honorable mentions.
Oh, of course we do. We've taken a playbook from
Kevin and Melissa, mostly Melissa.
Okay.
Yeah. Honorable mention, Trekking the World. So this was a fantastic game put out by Underdog Games. Will didn't actually play this game.
It's my fault it didn't make the list.
Yeah, so Will didn't actually play this game. Our kids have thoroughly enjoyed it though. So if you have kids and or are interested in learning about lots of different important or historic places around the world that you should visit someday, this is a great one for that.
Lee actually put it on his top 10 list of games you should check out for your kids for Christmas this year. Apparently, I need to try it out. It does look great. Probably is great. I just haven't had a chance to play it yet.
It's a great family weight game. Also, Apogee. So this is one that I probably slipped under a lot of people's radar, but it has excellent gameplay. It's a little lighter weight, sci-fi themed game that is, I guess not necessarily sci-fi, it is science-based. You take on the role of a CEO who is working on building up a team of engineers, gaining tech and patents to try and build a rocket and then send it on whatever mission your game happens to have.
Yeah, it's a light programming game. It's got some really sleek and slick-looking artwork, and it's a fun one. It's probably number 11 on the list. Let's jump and see what number 10 is.
Number 10.
The number 10 spot on our list goes to Wolfenstein, the board game from Bethesda and Archon Studios. This is a dudes on a map action selection campaign game that features all kinds of cool minis and the hugely popular IP of Wolfenstein. Sarah and I typically don't review these types of games because Ryan and Katie are so much better at them, but this one had a warm spot in my heart just as my favorite video game growing up as a kid, and so we cast lots and we won. We got the short straw, we got the long straw, whatever. We got to play this one and thoroughly enjoyed it. Actually makes me think maybe I should play more Zombicide with Ryan.
Yeah, there's some games like Zombicide that are not my favorite types of games. However, just because like dice rolls just thwart me the whole time, I feel like I never get to do what I want to do in the game. This one had enough going on that I still felt like we were taking on the Nazis in the game and actually being successful more times than I am in games like Zombicide.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I liked a lot of the video game incorporations, like the way the doors open and line of sight and secret passages and all the cool things that were in the video game. Enjoyed working together as a team to face the bad guys. We played through a number of different scenarios. I don't even know how many come in the game, but you basically can play through all the levels of several video games put together, and just really thought that they pulled together a really nice package. The minis were sharp, the art was excellent, the mechanics worked really well. Wolfenstein the board game, number 10 on the list. Number 9.
Number 9 is In Too Deep from Burnt Island Games. In the game, you take on the role of a secret agent who, Matrix style, will plug into criminal minds, kind of controlling them to get them to complete certain missions and tasks and ultimately get information to take down the syndicate.
The game features a modular board that can rotate around and will give you a different experience every time you play the game. One of the best parts about the game is that when you get these certain cards in the game, you get to decide, am I going to take kind of the high road and only get small rewards, or am I going to go in deeper and, you know, kick down the door and rough up some people in order to get more information? However, if you go in too deep at the end of the game, you can face heavy consequences, so you have to balance that risk versus reward throughout the entire course of the game. Features just a lot of really neat artwork, lots of cool components, and Burnt Island does a great job of putting together a really deluxe package with their Kickstarter campaigns, so we're very eager to see what the finished product looks like.
Number 8.
The number 8 game on our list is Role Player Adventures from Thunderworks Games. This puppy is another one that kind of brought us out of our typical comfort zone, but in a really exciting and fantastic way, because the game is a role-play based game, but the scenarios are very focused and the decisions that you make in the game are a little bit tighter, so you have a lot more of a framework to work from. The game is not necessarily a sequel, but works great with their role player game because the characters that you create in that game can be used when you play the adventure.
Yes, I am not an RPGer at all. It's too open-ended for me. This really took the essence of role-playing and gave it a focus so that players like me who do not enjoy role-playing games can enjoy the good parts of doing an RPG. So in the game you will take on a character, you will use dice to try and complete tasks and missions, but you have to work with everybody else on your team to complete it. You won't be able to do everything by yourself, so you really have to work together as a team. I love the way that they use the dice manipulation, and everybody has their own deck of cards that you can only use a certain number of times, that you have to work together to complete everything in the game.
And the game does still feature a lot of open world elements. You've got a giant map that you can explore, and you do have a lot of freedom in being creative with the tools and things that are given to you. So you may end up picking up a shovel somewhere where you can pretty much dig anywhere in the world and check and see what kind of outcome you get. So there's still a lot of like freedom to just mess with pieces, move stuff around, try different things, but you do have an ultimate quest that you're trying to fulfill, and you do have a very specific way that you have to achieve it. They've done a really great job of merging all the different worlds, pulling some really neat stuff together and putting it in a really cool big box. Check out Role Player Adventures. Number 7.
Number 7 on our list is Philosophia Floating World. This is from Cogito Ergo Meeple, and in the game you are in feudal Japan. You are trying to gain wisdom, you're taking on monsters, and just gaining honor. And in the game you are deck building, so you're gaining cards to your deck, and everyone will draw their hand, and then they will pass their hand to the next player, who will then choose the cards that they will get for the round, which is very interesting because you'll need to then work on building your deck so that your opposing players cannot thwart what you're trying to do on your turn.
Yeah, it's actually a you split, I choose. So when I'm picking those cards, I'm discarding one immediately to your discard pile. I'm giving you back a 3 and a 2, and then you're picking which set of those cards to play for the game. I really enjoyed the mechanics for this one. You have like a secret territory that you're trying to keep a secret from them. You're trying to determine what theirs is. There's bad guys along the way that you have to face as well. There's a lot of different things going on your own tableau that you have in front of you, because you have certain powers available to you at the beginning of the game, but as you gain these tokens over the course of the game, you want to gain the tokens, that's how you win, but each time you gain one you have to cover up one of your abilities, and so that decision making was really interesting as well. I really enjoyed the gameplay. Visually, I understand what they were trying to do, like trying to stay true to the historic visuals, but I felt like it came across just a little bit stark. I think this game would have been even higher on my list if they had done a little bit more visual refinement. I'm not sure what the final campaign ended up looking like.
Yeah, because we did have a prototype.
Right, maybe it got even nicer. I know they did add better and cooler components than we had in our prototype. I wish it was just a little more finessed, and then this puppy could have jumped up several because the gameplay for it was really phenomenal.
Yep. Number 6.
Genotype, the Mendelian genetics game from Genius Games, is our number 6 slot on the list. This game is a dice worker placement manipulation game where players will be attempting to kind of alter the odds to their Punnett squares in order to get the specific phenotypes that they need in order to build very specific types of pea plants.
Yes, that sounded all very scientific-y, but it has very excellent gameplay. So you are rolling dice trying to get certain numbers to come up so that you can gain certain things for your pea plants. It has different ways to manipulate those dice. It is worker placement, so you are using your dice around the board. It also has ways to kind of help yourself as you can pick up tools or more slots in your little garden area, the pots to plant things in. So it is a very well done dice as worker placement game. And then on top of it, Cream is the science part where you actually can learn something.
Right, hard science, good gameplay put together, great artwork as well. Check that one out, Genotype. Number 5.
Number 5 is Cartographers Heroes. Now this is a standalone game in the Cartographers and role player world.
Both from Thunderworks games.
Yes, both from Thunderworks. In the game, you are just like the original Cartographers, setting up the game in the exact same way. You are flipping over cards and adding those terrain shapes to your map. In this one, there are now heroes who can come and help try and destroy it and take out the monsters that have attacked your land. I have this one a little bit lower on my list just because it is so similar to the original. There was the new heroes. All of the content is brand new, but it is in that same Cartographers. So I didn't feel like there was too much that was innovative and breathtaking in it. It is the same amazing Cartographers that we all know and love. So if you don't have Cartographers or Cartographers Heroes, you definitely need to pick it up. Excellent, excellent gameplay. And I'm glad that there is new stuff coming out for this game.
And there were a lot of other expansions and different things that came out this year that didn't make the list because they were only expansions. This one is a standalone game, although it can definitely be played right along with your existing Cartographers game and gives you all those new goals and cards and different things to play with. So it expands in that universe, but not a whole lot different on the gameplay mechanics. Still a fantastic game. Number 5 ain't bad.
Number 4.
Filling the number 4 slot is the game Tortuga 2199 from Phalanx Games. This game is a space exploration, domination, deck building, map-based area control game. Got them all in there. You will be controlling your ship flying throughout the galaxy to different sectors in space. You'll be using your deck of cards each round to control that, so you will either be spending your credits or you'll be using movement points to try and take control of different areas in the galaxy. At each area, you'll have the ability to face bad guys and alien races, and when you do, you'll gain those cards into your deck, making you stronger as you proceed throughout the galaxy.
Yes, this one was interesting to me because I usually am not as good at area control games. I just don't have that strategy in my head well. And deck builders, I love deck builders, I'm not good at them either. This one kind of fixes some of the problems that I have with deck builders in that there's only 2 different types of currency in the game. There are action currency and then there is the money currency. And so in the game you will use those in however way you would like to use them. Instead of some you only get to buy one thing, you only get to do this thing, you have to have the credits. So I think it kind of fixed some of the problems I've always had with deck builders and added all these other mechanics with it to make a very broad gaming experience.
Yeah, in the game it is a very streamlined deck builder, a very streamlined area control laid on top of each other, features some great minis, the boards were cool with their inset spaces, lots of different cards and varieties. I think if you go back and watch my preview video, and it still holds true, this game in my mind was one of those that you could probably expand on exponentially because you could definitely add new tiles, new cards, new ships, and really set a great base foundation for something that could turn into a very huge set. Interesting stuff. Tortuga 2199. Number 3.
Now I have to say, I put this one at number 3. It would be much lower on Will's list, but I moved it up quite a bit. This is Welcome to Las Vegas from Deepwater Games. What I liked about this, that I think it outranked Cartographers here specifically because I felt like this version of Welcome to was a completely different version from the original Welcome to. Will kind of disagrees with me a little bit on that. But I felt like the mechanics and the ways to score points were very different from the ways that I was trying to manipulate where to mark which spaces on my map compared to the original Welcome to. So it felt very fresh to me with that little bit of familiarity.
Right, so the game is a roll and write game that is, or a reveal and write game that is mechanically similar to the original game. I don't have any beef with it. It is solid. When you play the game, I would say this is much more strategically difficult. Like there's a lot of additional stuff to think through as you're building it, which is great. So it did level up the gameplay. So I see what you're saying. But it is, a pad of paper, a deck of cards. You're filling in your board, trying to score the most points you can, with basically the same options as everybody else, which is always nice to prove your dominance. That Sarah's better at this game than I am.
Yep.
And I had a good time with Welcome to Las Vegas. Great addition. I'm sure, and just like the other one, they could really take this infinite ways, and there could be a lot of other Welcome to games as well.
Yep. Number 2.
As we get down to the final 2 slots on our list, these are both games that we enjoyed thoroughly numerous times. This one was actually a family favorite that we got to play over and over because the kids loved it. We introduced it to several other players. It was just a lot of fun, had a great weight to it, and it is the game Creature Comforts from Kids Table Gaming. It's a dice worker placement game that has you using some of your own dice each turn, as well as some community dice that everyone shares. You're not fighting over spaces with other players, which was excellent in the game, and the mechanics were pretty straightforward, but it really featured a lot of replayability things because of the different cards and tiles and pieces in the game, and just because of the weight, it was a very fun, enjoyable game to play, plenty of strategy, but easy to understand by everybody that we played it with.
Yes, this is a game that I wanted Everdell to be. Everdell I had some issues with where I just could never get the right combination of cards. This game has comboing cards, but it was much easier to get what you needed. It was a nicer weight. It wasn't so mean as to taking spots from other players on the board. It really is a great entry-level worker placement game for kids. It is easy for kids to jump into, but it has the strategy and thinking that adults will thoroughly enjoy the game as well.
Yeah, it features some really great artwork. I'm sure the components will be cool. It'll have the little custom meeples and everything, and Kids Table Gaming always puts together a really solid campaign, so I'm sure people will be communicated with well along the way, and they'll get a nice product at the end of the day.
Number 1! Number 1 on our list is Endless Winter Paleoamericans from Fantasia Games. This is a game with a lot going on. There are 4 different mini games kind of going on at once where you kind of have to pick and either strategize to diversify or work really hard on a couple things. You are in control of a clan that is trying to gain resources and just surviving the endless winter. Is a deck builder, so you will be gaining some cards for that round and then spending them to take actions. You'll spend a couple of cards at a time on your turn to do something. There is a board with monoliths where you are building a structure. There is a resource board where you are gaining cards and things, buying the cards. There is another map where you're building your teepees and huts and structures. So just a lot of things to balance and plan out, and then that deck of cards will then get shuffled again and you're reusing them. So just lots of planning and thinking, strategizing in this game.
Yeah, it features the artwork from the Micho. It looks great on the table. It does take up a bunch of your table. Each player has their own tableau where they're going to be building up their resources and doing their kind of resource gathering and set collecting. There are numerous ways to victory, which is very cool in the game. It also features lots of great components. She mentioned a lot of those. You've got some minis as well in the game, and the game also features unique player power, so everybody starts off slightly advantaged in one direction or the other, which kind of helps you as you go throughout the game not to necessarily overlap each other if you don't want to or need to. You probably will end up doing it in the game, and so fighting for those best spots on the board, building up your deck of cards, and ultimately being the ultimate winner at the end of the game. It's probably a hour and a half, 2 hour game. It's a lot of cool thinking, a lot of cool stuff going on the board, and just tons and tons of choices. It's not necessarily open world, but you kind of feel like you can go anywhere and everywhere and try anything and everything. And then when you get to your 4th and 5th plays of the game, you realize like, oh, I gotta really hunker down and be strategic. So it's the type of game that will get a lot of replays because there are so many options and different ways to pursue. I'm sure people will have like strategy guides on how to specifically do one technique throughout the course of the game or something, but it felt very balanced overall, looked like a really great package, and they did well on their Kickstarter, so congratulations to them. that is the list. I think as we were talking through this, if you watch the outtakes, you'll probably see that we did think of one other game that probably should have made the list.
Well, one thing right now, it is currently on Kickstarter as we speak. So that is a little bit different in putting out this video because it is later in the year than usually a lot of these other campaigns are run. And that is Momiji from 3M Games. It hasn't funded yet, so I'm not sure, or maybe it has funded. It hasn't finished their campaign. So we usually don't include those as well in our video. But I do want to mention it just because it probably would have ranked on this list for sure. As far as the gameplay was excellent, it kind of reminds me of Arboretum, but without all the backstabbing and the ways to potentially thwart other players from points. It's a little more of a you work on your own stuff type of game. You're laying cards down in your own tableau, but other players can't thwart you from what you're working on.
Yep, really elegant art style. Check that one out as well. Really cool stuff. Thank you guys for joining us. Let us know which games you would have ranked, what made number one on your spot. Obviously, we didn't get to look at all the games on Kickstarter this year, but from the ones that we did get to preview, these ones definitely stood out as solid, fantastic choices that are worth backing, that are worth checking out. One thing that you could also check out, we'll just give one more shout out to thegamesteward.com. They have a lot of Kickstarter games that are available on their store that you may not be able to get anywhere else in retail shops and things like that. So give them a peek if you're looking to get a hold of some of these. I'm sure most of these probably still have late pledges open if you want to jump on board. But really excellent collection of games. Lots of fun had this year. Hopefully you guys will be able to get your hands on these very soon and enjoy them as well. I did all that hard work.
Didn't have as much different new blah blah.
New blah blah. The pea plant. You are using your little boxy thing. What's it called? What is it called?
Punnett square.
Punnett squares. None of this will make it in the outtakes because it'll make me look dumb. Okay.
You have to do the Mandalorian one though.
I will do that one. That's funny. I'll probably even put the one I just said where I said them. Genotype, the Mendelian. It's like Mandalorian, but sciencey. But one of the great parts about the game is you can decide a lot. Dudes on a map.